Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I'm going to talk about the game The Exorcist's Codex, produced by Two Starving Gnolls. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And you might also consider joining as a member. We've got all kinds of cool stuff going on with that, including early videos and, just all the cool things that go along with it. But anyway, take a look at it. It's kind of like YouTube's version of Patreon, and it's not very expensive, so give it a shot. Anyway, let's dive right in. The Exorcist Codex is a supernatural horror game. It's set in the 1890s, and I crowd-backed this, Kickstart, pledged, I don't know, whatever. I gave them money for it before it came out, and it finally showed up. And I gotta say, it's a super, super pretty book. I actually did a short where I unboxed it and kind of showed what all's in it, but this little carrying case that I used as my, hello, this is what I'm talking about, came with the books and the GM screen and that sort of thing. It says here that inside the slipcase you'll find the Exorcist Codex core rulebook, the Game Master's Guide, a GM screen, demon dice board, and 15 pen-friendly character sheets. It's sort of a tablet of character sheets, and that's pretty cool. So let's just take a look at the books first. So both the GM guide and the player's guide have the same aesthetic, which is cool. They went for this sort of tome look where it's just like the text on silver, the cool little design, and then core rulebook, same on the spine, nothing at all on the back. And then when you start flipping through it, you get all of the artwork and that sort of thing, which I'm going to do an overlay of. You'll see that as I talk. I'll just kind of flip through some of the book and show you what it's like. So that's this one. As you see, the GM's guide is the same. And then just to sort of express the artwork, this is the GM screen. And it is really cool and creepy. And then the opposite side has something that's a little bit more Indiana Jones, I think. And inside this, I'm not going to necessarily show it because it's really hard to see. But it's 4 panels of just tons of charts and everything you need to play this system. The Exorcist Codex uses the basic role-playing system, which is the same one that is for Call of Cthulhu. So if you've ever played Call of Cthulhu, you pretty much know what you're getting here. It's a percentile-based system. You've got attributes, and then you can roll skills by taking 2 10-sided dice and trying to roll under whatever your skill is. So if you got a 40%, you got to roll 40 or under to succeed. It's that simple. The Call of Cthulhu has a special skill called the Cthulhu Mythos. And as that goes up, your character's sanity goes down. So in direct proportion, you basically start with no mythos and maximum sanity. And the more you know, the more crazy you get until you're nuts and you know everything. This game turned that on its head. It's got a totally different setup where it's sort of the spiritual awakening that the higher that goes, the better defense you have against the monsters. Now, just to cover basically what's going on here. As I said, it takes place in the 1890s. It's in Europe. When I first saw this on the crowdfunding, I thought the game was going to be like an Old West thing. And I think I even said that in my short, which, my bad. It just had this sense that you were like cruising around in the Old West, exorcising demons and stuff. The reality is that it seems to take place in Europe, and there's all kinds of secret stuff going on. Basically, in prehistory, there was this entity that basically destroyed and tormented the world and did terrible, terrible things that I don't even want to talk about. And then these divine beings came and defeated it and banished it. And then over the years, humanity built up to these amazing cathedrals. I can kind of equate it to the idea of the precursors in Assassin's Creed, where they had not quite the level of super high tech they did, but way before this should have happened, they were up to like medieval levels of technology and stuff. Then these demons and monsters that used to serve the big bad thing sort of came back, destroyed it all. A huge war breaks out. There's a big fight between the factions. It's sort of a give and take for quite a while. And then eventually it sort of turns the tide to where the demons are more insidious and they're messing with humanity, making them greedy and horrible and all that, great stuff. And then eventually we get to the modern day where there's two factions at work. There's basically these cultists that are running with the super bad guy, trying to basically screw with humanity and make things terrible. And then there's an order of basically good guys that have also sort of proliferated throughout humanity, taken over religions and that sort of thing, and are basically acting as bastions to fight against the corruption that is sweeping through humanity. And so that's the basic premise of the game and how you sort of get there. And then at that point, you are, helping fight demons from doing whatever they're trying to do. They might be attempting to take over a particular field. Maybe they're trying to start a war. Maybe it could be anything. If you've seen a movie that takes place in that time period, a good example might be like the second Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr., where Moriarty is basically attempting to start this massive war so that his industries can work. I mean, that's a great example of an insidious cult thing to do in this setting. And there's plenty of other options as well. So you could pretty much do whatever you can think of as far as that stuff is concerned. There's a variety of character choices that they recommend and different sort of backgrounds, from like priests to sanctioned exorcists to adventurers and so on and so forth. It is still Call of Cthulhu. You're just kind of stripping out the Cthulhu mythos. You don't have, him and his great old ones and all that stuff. It's a different pantheon of monsters. But at its heart, you're still dealing with cultists. You're still dealing with horrifying manifestations of monsters that are doing just absolutely awful things to people and compelling them to do terrible things. Because in some ways, what's really cool about this is that we sort of explain a lot of some of the more horrible human vices as being manifestations of demonic entities and their machinations. So like the cultists are doing things to sort of instill greed and corruption in people, and they're even taking over the highest echelons of certain professions and industries. So you get a good, well-rounded playing field to explore and write your stories in. The crowdfunding came with a pretty big scenario if you got in on the first 48 hours, which I did. So I have a PDF of a pretty cool scenario and some other things like that they throw in. It wasn't all printed, but the stuff that they did include is very high quality, and they really did think it out. The artwork is phenomenal, as you've seen in the flip through. And all around, I would say that if you can tolerate the basic role-playing system, this is a fantastic setting, and it would be a lot of fun. If you can't, well, the setting is still so awesome that I would say it'd be very easy to incorporate your favorite system, whether that might be Savage Worlds or basically any game that has that style of setup. I'm not sure how easy it would be to just translate it right into D&D or something, or Starfinder or Pathfinder or whatever. But if you have the Secret World D20 book, you probably could adapt that to this. So if you're not a fan of that percentile skill system, which I'm actually not, I'm not a big fan of the basic roleplay system. I played it ages ago. I had a stack of freaking Call of Cthulhu books because they just looked beautiful. I loved the artwork and all that, and they're very inspiring. But I never really enjoyed the system. I've always found that the skill system in particular, it just doesn't really cater to a sense of accomplishment when you elevate those skills. So if I got a 40% chance to do something, whatever it is, and then I do a raise, even if I get it up by 5%, it just doesn't feel good. Yeah, sure, it does make it easier to do things, but it just doesn't feel as good as like adding a full point, a full dice to your dice pool, or, an additional plus to your 2d6 roll or something. I don't know. For whatever reason, it's just never really appealed to me that much. Plus, there's quite a few skills. The character sheet's a bit unruly. It is very easy to learn. I mean, there's not that much to it when it comes to that stuff. And I just learned that it's actually quite huge in Japan, according to some articles I found. Apparently, they find it very easy to use and very exciting. So, it's supposedly one of the higher played games up there with Dungeons and Dragons and World of Darkness and a few others. So, maybe it's just me. But beyond all that, if you like the setting and you like the artwork and it inspires you, I highly recommend the Exorcist's Codex. I think that the background is neat. I think that everything they've done here is very creative and cool. It's not to be confused with Deadlands. I'm going to be honest. At first glance, I was wondering, why would I play this instead of Deadlands? And then I dove in a little bit more. So go beyond the first glance, because once you start to dive in a little bit more, it is a more specific setting than it trying to bleed into another Old West or 1890 setting or Gaslight setting, whatever you want to say. Now, could you do this with Cthulhu by Gaslight? Absolutely. I don't think that you would have any trouble adapting this style to that game without really having to have anything new. But to be fair to these guys, they have developed such a cool world. It does have its own mythos. It does have its own pantheon of monsters and things. And it's just very cool. I guess that if you want to be picky, you could say it's too derivative. But I think that would be unfair to the work they've put in. Once you start to dive into the GM's handbook in particular, you'll get the sense of what I'm saying, that there is more to it, that there's a lot more nuance than just what you see at first glance. Like many things, you don't want to cast it aside too quickly. These days, it's a little hard because we're spoiled for choice. There's just thousands of games, and they're coming out all the time. They're probably coming out just slightly slower than books on Kindle. But with that in mind, the production quality and the attention to detail of this game deserves your attention. So if you're a fan of tabletop role-playing games, if you like the idea of playing in the 1890s, doing all this cool exorcist work, fighting demons, fighting cultists, overcoming their crazy plots, trying to protect the world, then I think that this would be a lot of fun. I think that if you played it as they intend, using all of their mythology and everything, then it definitely has a place in your library. But that's my opinion. What do you guys think? Have you tried this game? Have you seen it? Are you interested in it? Is it something that you would play? Let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to hear. Anyway, this is Robert with Society Case Files, signing off.